In social studies for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be learning about communities in our country and world. And we're going to be able to answer why does it matter where we live at the end of this chapter. It says, in this chapter, you will explore communities in the United States and around the world. You will read about the features that make these communities special. You will also learn about the ways these features affect how people live and work and play. And then when we're done learning about it, you guys are going to create a travel brochure about your community. So it'll be about the community of Springfield. And it might be your neighborhood or it might be the whole city of Springfield. And as you are learning, I want you to be thinking about how your community is different from other communities. You're going to choose at least 3 features that make your community special. And then you'll be conducting research to learn more about those features and then deciding how to present each feature in a travel brochure. It might be a photograph, a written summary, a map to tell about each feature. And then you'll be creating a travel brochure that uses pictures and words and maps to tell about the community. So we'll be talking a lot more about that as we get to the end of the chapter, so in the next couple of weeks. But for right now, we're going to be talking about locating and describing our communities. So before we can learn about the communities in our country and our world, we're going to look at some vocabulary words. You will have in your class notebook, in your social studies handouts, this paper that has words to explore. So what you're going to do is I'm going to read off these words, and I want you to check if you know it, you've heard it, or you don't know it. So the first word is climate. Then community, elevation, erosion, humidity, landform, natural resource, population, precipitation, and region. So now that you have marked off if you know these words or have heard them or you don't know them, as you go through your readings, we'll be defining these words. So you'll need to have this handy, and it will be in your social studies handouts in your class notebook so that you can make sure that you can add in the meanings of these words as we read them. So now we're going to watch a video about communities in our country and world. And as we're watching it, I want you to think about the main idea and the key facts that you learned in this video.
A community is a place where people live, work, and play. The United States is a big country with different kinds of communities.
Let's investigate.
Why does it matter where we live? Communities come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are small, rural towns. Others are big, urban cities. Some communities have a small number of people, while others have millions. A community just outside of a big city is called a suburb. A suburb is smaller than a city, but bigger than a rural town. Let's take a look at my community. I live in a small town. My family lives in a house on a street with lots of trees. I have a lot of friends on my street. Their parents work in some of the restaurants and shops we go to. My dad has his own business. All of these businesses are on the main street, right in the middle of my town. My cousin lives in a different community, a big city with lots of people and buildings. Let's take a look at where he lives.
I live on the 10th floor in this apartment building, on a wide, busy street. There are buildings all around. Some buildings have other apartments in them. Some have businesses. In my building, there are lots of families and lots of kids like me. My parents work in another part of the city and other big buildings. Even though my cousin and I live in different communities, we do a lot of the same things. We just do them differently because of where we live. To get to my school, I can take a city bus or my parents can drop me off. Other kids live near the school and can walk.
I can walk or ride my bicycle to get to school. And since kids who live on farms go to the school in my town, they ride on a school bus. When we need to buy food, we get in our car and drive to a big grocery store at the edge of town. The grocery store is in a shopping center with many other kinds of stores.
In my neighborhood, there are lots of small grocery stores. There's one down the block from my apartment. My family likes to walk to the store to get food for dinner. We also have bigger grocery stores we can drive to. For fun, there are lots of playgrounds and parks in my neighborhood. Sometimes we can go to the stadiums in our city to see professional baseball or football games, which is really cool.
In my town, there is a big, beautiful park where we can all play sports, swim, and have fun. And there's a national park nearby. Oh, and every summer, the county fair takes place just outside of town. It's great. Cities, big and small, have a lot of other things that are the same. Whether small or large, they have leaders like mayors, city councils, police, fire chiefs, and park directors. These people manage the town or city and make decisions for the rest of the people who live there. Small towns and big cities all have police and fire departments that keep us safe. We also have hospitals to take care of us when we're sick or get hurt. And we all get the mail delivered and the trash picked up. These are things everybody needs. So that's what two communities, my small town and my cousin's big city, look like. They are different in size and shape, but people live, work, and play in both of them. What does your community look like?
Let's record.
Now it's your turn to investigate and report on why does it matter where we live?
So that video showed us two different communities. And I want you to think about what was the main idea of that video and what are some key facts that you learned. So I want you to think about that. I think the main idea was that there's lots of different kinds of communities in our country, and some of them have a lot of similarities, but they also have differences. So some of the key facts we learned was that there are small towns that are more rural, and then there are big cities, and then kind of in between, which would be a suburban. And that you do things in different ways, but that everyone kind of does the same thing. They all live, work, play, go to school, but maybe in a different way. So in the small town, you're going to have to drive to get to the supermarket because you don't live close enough to get there. Whereas in the city, a lot of times you're going to walk to the supermarket. Maybe you'll drive if it's a little bit far, but there's also buses you could take. And in the small town, there wasn't buses you could take to get places, that they could walk to school because it's close enough. And, we all get our mail delivered no matter what, and our trash picked up, but that we do things a little bit differently. But everyone has a community, and that how you live and what you do to get your food and go to school and do a job depends on what community you live in. So now we're going to investigate, why does it matter where we live? And this says, a community's land, resources, and weather affect how people live and work. In this chapter, you will read about the different types of communities in the United States. You'll explore where communities developed in our country. You'll also learn how people use the country's land and resources. As you read, think about your own community. How do land, resources, and weather affect life in your community? So I want you to think about that. We're going to be learning about how communities are changed and affected in the way that they develop is by what land and what resources are there. What's the weather like there? So let's look at, why do communities develop? It says communities come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are small and rural. Others are huge cities with millions of people. Many things can affect how communities develop. Some places in the United States are perfect for farming. These places have soil that is good for growing crops. They also get plenty of sunshine and rain. Small rural communities often develop around these farms. People came to these communities to work on the farms. So this is more rural land where you're going to have farms and crops growing. And because farms need a lot of land, you're not going to have a lot of people there. But you'll have some because people are needed to work on the farm. And then because there are people who are working the farm, then other businesses pop up, like, you need a supermarket or you need a store to sell the farm goods, the fruits and the vegetables and whatever. And so then other things develop around it, but it's not going to be a big place. Says some communities in the United States grew because of the steel industry. Many people settled in Braddock, Pennsylvania, when its steel mill opened in 1873. Workers came to the town to find jobs. Some of these communities shrunk once the steel mills closed. However, some continued to grow as new industries developed. So sometimes you have a community that began because of a company, a way to make money. So a steel mill, different factories. In Massachusetts, we have communities that grew up around making cloth and fabric, like in Lowell. In 1846, Portland, Oregon was a small town with only about a few dozen people. The town's location along the Willamette River helped Portland become a trading center. As trade grew, more rail lines were built in the area. Businesses, including lumber mills, shipyards, and flour mills, employed many people. Portland continued to grow in the 1940s as people came to build ships. Today, more than 600,000 people live in Portland. So sometimes communities grew because they're along a river, which to start with was one of the main ways people traveled. That was faster. And so if you were along a river, you could then become a trading center. So you'd have stores that would, start there. And then people would start moving it around until it got bigger. We're going to be learning a lot more about why communities developed and why it matters where we live, that everything's affected by where we live. So we're going to move on to lesson 1, which is locating and describing our communities. And that's going to talk a lot about maps and the different kinds of communities. We're going to look at where is my community and what is it like. And this is in their first lesson. So our first lesson for this week is going to be on what my community looks like. Okay, so what am I learning? You're going to learn in this lesson, you will use your investigative skills to explore different kinds of communities and where they are found. Why am I learning it? Reading and talking about different kinds of communities will help you understand more about your own community. How will I know that I learned it? You will be able to write a paragraph about your community and why people chose to live there. So at the end of this lesson, you're going to need to be able to write a paragraph about your community and why people chose to live there, okay? So I want you to look at this picture. There's a couple of pictures, and which place is more like your community, and explain your answer. So this is our first picture. And then we have another picture, which is a rural community. We have another one that's an urban community. And which of these communities is more like Springfield? Is it more like this, where it's a rural community, or more like this, where it's an urban community? So Springfield is more of an urban community than a rural community. So now we're going to be reading maps and images, and we're going to be doing this. We're going to find 3 details about the reading and then do the summary. And it says, when you summarize, you find the most important ideas you read and see. Then you tell these ideas in your own words. Summarizing can help you remember information. So we're going to read the text all the way through. This will help you understand what the text is about. Look for the most important details. Details tell more about the main idea. Explain this text in a sentence or 2. When you summarize, you use your own words to tell the most important ideas from the text. So we're going to work together to fill in this chart after reading about maps and satellite images. And it says, as we read the text and look at the map and the photos, what do maps and photos show? Circle words you do not know. Underline clues to help you answer these questions. What is a map? What is a satellite image? What community is shown in the satellite image and the map? All right, so let's look at maps and satellite images. A map is a helpful tool. It's a drawing that can show where streets, parks, and other landmarks are located in a community. A map is different from a photo. A photo shows an image of an actual community. A satellite image is a photo of a place taken from high above it. In a satellite image, you can see the roofs of buildings, treetops, cars, and sometimes even people. There are a lot of trees, and some streets might be hard to see. A map does not include every detail. A map shows only the things that make it a useful tool. For example, a street map shows clearly where streets are located. People use street maps to see how they can get from one place to another in their community. A satellite image can also be a helpful tool. It shows what a place actually looks like from above. You can see where buildings are located and the type of land a place has. I want us to go and see what is the difference, if we can find what is a map and what is a satellite image. We want to highlight what is a map. So it says, a map is a helpful tool. It's a drawing that can show where streets, parks, and other landmarks are located in a community. Okay? Then it says a satellite image is a photo of a place taken from high above it. See what else we can find. Oh, look, it says a satellite image can also be a helpful tool. So it seems like maps and satellite images are both tools that can help us know things about a community. The satellite image is a photo taken from high above that tells us what something looks like, the tops of everything, so you can see where the buildings are, whereas a map is a drawing, and it shows us things that are important, like it might show us streets or where parks are or other things. So now we have these two images. We have a satellite image of Detroit and we have a street map of Detroit. And we can see that some of the things are very similar and some of them are different. They're the same community but shown in different ways. Like you can see on this community, on this satellite image, something right here. Now, I don't know what it is. I just know it's a picture and it looks like some sort of baseball diamond. So I can look at my map here where I see is some sort of baseball park. And I can find it here and know that it's called Comerica Park. And I could figure out how to get there, what streets to take. On this one, I can see where it is, but I have no idea what streets to take to get there. But this shows me exactly what street it's on, so I could actually find it. There are some other things that we can locate on both of these. Here is the Ford, this right here. It says Ford on it, and we know that's Ford Field because it's right there. We could also locate this street right here is the same one as this street. So it's Route 1, and we know that because we can see both of them. So we can find the same places on the satellite image and the map, but they're going to show it to us in different ways, which is good. We need both of them so we can see what something looks like and how to get there. So let's look at our chart where it tells us, okay, we need the 3 details and a summary. One of the details should be what we underlined. How about what we underlined about a map? That a map is a useful tool, is a drawing that can show where streets, parks, and other landmarks are located. So I'm going to put in that one. A map is a drawing that shows where street, parks, and other landmarks are in a community. Now I think I'm going to do one that is about the satellite images. If we look at the top, it said, a satellite image is a photo of a place taken from high above. It shows what a place actually looks like from above. And you can see where buildings are located and the type of land a place has. A satellite image is a photo taken from high above that can show you where buildings and other things are in a community, right? So both of them are telling us where things are, but in different ways. Let's see, what else do we want to write? Okay, so let's think about how we could find the same places on a map and a satellite image. You can find the same places in a community on a map and on a satellite image. So then if we think about this, our summary or the main idea, the main things that happen is that a map and a satellite image are both tools that you can use to locate places in a community. And that's really what it was about, telling us that, you can use both of these and they give you important information about a community. What you are going to be doing this week is you're going to be reading Where is My Community and What Is It Like? So you're going to read What Makes a Community? And is it urban, suburban, and rural communities? Maps and globes with some map skills and what a map can tell you about your community. And then when you're finished with that, you're going to think about the different things you read, and you're going to write a paragraph about what kind of community you live in. Is it urban, suburban, or rural? And why you think people chose to live in your community. So you're going to need to make sure that you remember and that you read what is rural and urban and suburban. And from there, you'll know what kind of community you live in, and you can give examples from the text that support it. So you're going to need to write a paragraph about that. And so that's what you're going to be doing for social studies this week. That's it for this lesson with Miss D.